26. South winds increasing to 20 to 30. For your Friday, very windy, partly sunny, a high of 46. West winds 25 to 35 miles per hour. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 30 degrees.
Greg is a real Prevagen user, and this is his story.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm not an actor. I'm just a regular person. 8 years ago, I just didn't feel like I was on my game. I started taking Prevagen, and I want people to know that Prevagen has worked for me. Give it a try. I want it to help you just like it has helped me.
Prevagen, at stores everywhere without a prescription. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Testimonialist was compensated for their time.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives. Welcome to the March 12th, 2026 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. And I did get some of the emails from you guys yesterday. I think Sam sent me an email about tariffs and a few others, so I will definitely get to those. Follow me on X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Spoutable, Substack, Threads, and Blue Sky. And catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon. And there, of course, you can get all of our featured interviews. Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Patty Vasquez, Driving You Home. And It's the Democracy, Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, our other great shows and interviews. As always, that's the place to be. Yeah, we're gonna put that together, guys. WCPT is the place to be. Make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Some of the articles that we talked about a little bit yesterday. One in particular is what's happening with the state legislature down in Tennessee. You guys heard that one of the representatives there, Michelle Reynaud, was talking about the Bible gives sort of cover to founding fathers that were slave owners, and I guess the majority leader, the Republican majority leader now, someone from her own party, criticized her for that statement. So check that out at Heartland Signal on X. Also, Patty Vasquez did some great coverage on what some of the judges are doing to help with citizens who've been detained unlawfully up in Minnesota. And she covered a few topics there and some stories that you guys may not have been aware of. So you'll catch that over at Heartland Signal as well. And then we got to stay hot and heavy on John Husted in Ohio. You guys have seen by now, maybe you've seen, but if not, I'll remind you, you can go to Heartland Signal on X to get more information. But he tells conservative podcaster Nick Dunn that Americans living in poverty are not, quote, very experienced in navigating the real world. You literally have to teach people how to budget. And that they don't quite get the buzzword affordability. Okay, so I'm going to take issue with this again. Because if you think about it, the phrase "not living in they're not interested or experienced in navigating the real world." I would say that people who are struggling with the high cost of everything, any and all of us that are facing those realities, actually, John Husted, you want to know those are the people that are actually navigating the real world, because the real world is when you don't have the umbrella of privilege and protection and access. That's the real world. That's dealing with the real craziness and garbage of some of your stupid legislation and votes that you've made. That's the real world. The real world isn't like this glorious, everybody's perfect, we do everything the right way. Because I bet you $1, John Husted, if I dug deeply enough into some of your garbage, I'd find out that you don't poop yogurt. Okay. I'm pretty certain that I'd find some, not too savory things in your background or in your life of, unless, and here's a good example. The most privileged person that is in the most powerful position on the planet has got a shaky A background, Donald Trump. And he's born with the two silver spoons, a whole set, Henry, of silver. Not just a spoon, y'all, a whole set. And look at the muck-ups that he's had, right? So, John Husted, somebody needs to snatch you by, as my mother used to say, somebody needs to snatch you by your collar. Because to tell people that they are not living navigating in the real world because they've got some budget issues or they're trying to navigate through living on the tips of paycheck to paycheck or poverty, talk about a privileged dude saying some garbage like that. So I can't wait for the people that are around Sherrod Brown, who is running for Senate in Ohio against Houston. I can't wait for him to pin his ears back on that one. Because historically, from what I know about Sherrod Brown, he has been a staunch fighter for the middle class and the regular everyday man and woman in this country. And he didn't lose that election to Marino because of the lack of good ideas. He lost because of the amount of money they threw at the election. I can't remember the exact number. I think that there was somewhere in the range of $9 million that the GOP spent on that election. I could be wrong. But he didn't lose, meaning Sherrod Brown. He did not lose because of a lack of good ideas. He lost because of this dude threw a ton of money. And Bernie Moreno's background isn't particularly spotless and not unconnected from people who have got some spotty issues and where their money come from, et cetera. So let's make sure that we send John Husted back to the farm of living in the real world. Let's make sure we do that, America. This is not a time where when it comes to our elections now, I say this often and maybe in different ways or from different angles. I don't care if you're in Seattle, if you're in Saratoga Springs, New York, if you are in San Antonio, Texas, if you're in Springfield, Illinois, if you're in Sarasota, Florida, if you are in Santa Fe, New Mexico, any place in the country, we should be looking at all elections that are federal elections and asking ourselves, what can I do to help this person win? If it's a U.S. Senate seat or if it's a U.S. Congressional seat, we should make certain that we are involved in those elections by either money or if it's Northeastern Georgia and Sean Harris. We need to make sure we're involved in all of these elections. If you think that a state, and so let me stay on this point and then add to it the point I want to make about being involved. The reason that it's so important is because we know that right now, let's just think this out. If the Democrats had the House and the Senate, we wouldn't be in this carnage that we're in right now because they would be putting the brakes on Donald Trump. So if you wonder about the stress and all the things you're going through and you think, well, what can I do? Call the office of a candidate that's running in another state and ask, what can I do to help? That's what Sean Harris did. That's why he got so much support from people outside of the state of Georgia. So embrace the ability to be able to help in another state 1,000 miles away. Technology puts you in a powerful position. The internet puts you in a powerful position. Social media does. So when it comes to someone like Sherrod Brown, who was born into what many would say, was the privilege that we all know, and others may not have been. At the end of the day, we want to look at what people are doing now to affect those that have less than them. And I would say that Sherrod Brown has been more of a champion for that than John Husted has been. So let's help get someone back in office on a federal level that's going to get things done for people who fit the mold that John Husted was trying to describe. Those who have had a life of less. At the same time, when I talk about you could be across the country, you want to help somebody that's in a state election as well. And why is that? Because you never know when you're going to be in that state. But my point is, you may live, in a Western state. You might live in Utah and you're progressive. And you think, what am I going to be able to do that? Well, why should I help out somebody running in Ohio? What if you're in Ohio and there's legislation that's been passed by the state legislature that would be negative toward you visiting while you're visiting there? And I could go really, really, really off into the weeds on that one. But literally, you could be visiting a state, visiting one of your children. Let's say that you've got a child that's, wants to go to Ohio State University, and you live in Colorado, and you're like, well, or you live in another state out west or wherever. You live in a Midwestern state, and you're like, well, I can't. But your child's going to go to Ohio State to play football, but for college. That's what I'm saying. You guys get it. I just have to drill down on this a little bit. Be concerned about what's in your community immediately, but in the broader community. You may have a niece or a nephew going to school someplace else in the country or visiting or whatever. That's why we have to be, when we talk about changing the dynamic of politics and social issues and economic issues, we have to look at it like, I think we have to look at it like that. Like, where might I be? Who do I know that's there? How can I help improve their lives by knowing what's going on politically in that state? So the same thing applies when it comes to a national or a federal election, a senator or a congressperson. We need to know. We need to be plugged in. We all have to make a big effort to pull ourselves out of our own silos, and we all are susceptible to that happening or to being in one. So let's make sure that we are broadening our view. All right, guys. Today's show, we will have candidate for Congress Melissa Bean with us in the 6:30 hour. Candidate for Congress Willie Preston will be with us in studio. And candidate for Congress Cat Ubazalei will be with us as well. So we've got a lineup of folks that we're going to be talking to today. I'm going to be asking some questions that you guys have sent to me and do our best to kind of get to them and through them. But right now we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Chicago, on March 17th, we choose our next voice in Congress. LaShawn Ford's record, disqualifying. LaShawn Ford was indicted and convicted by President Obama's Justice Department for tax fraud. And that's just the start. While we were struggling, LaShawn Ford was getting rich in real estate, ripping off working people and evicting families in need. Then Ford voted to raise our taxes by 32%, one of the biggest tax hikes in Illinois history. All while skipping out on paying his own taxes and voting to give himself multiple raises. LaShawn Ford sticks us with higher taxes while he gets a deal. We can't afford another self-dealing career politician in office. LaShawn Ford is not who we need in Congress. Paid for by Fair Shake and not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. Fair Shake is responsible for the content of this advertising. www.fairShakePac.com.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for hanging with us. Get involved in stuff going on outside of your immediate area. That's the synopsis of what I was saying a moment ago. Let's hit them with a couple of quick Choose Views news items on this March 12th, 2026. Airlines hiked their prices to cope with whipsaw oil prices. We knew it was coming. The airlines are raising their fares in the face of volatile oil prices sparked by the Iran war. Qantas hiked prices on international flights by an average of 5%, while Air India added a fuel surcharge Jet fuel is airline's second biggest expense, and it's a tough one to pass on to passengers, according to Bloomberg, because fare increases generally depress demand. Pretty obvious. For each 10% bump in full-year average jet fuel cost per gallon, U.S.-based airlines can expect to lose as much as 20% in earnings per share. That's crazy, but it's a reality, and it's directly tied to this war. So if you're looking to fly somewhere, it's going to be more expensive. There's no question about it. So tell Donald Trump to go stick it, because to say that we should, a little bit of pain for a small period of time, or an excursion. Yeah. We know what happened to Gilligan, the skipper, and Ginger and Mary Ann when they went on an excursion. Maybe Trump will get stranded on an island. Anyhow, inflation is holding steady, but that won't likely last for very long. Inflation rose 2.4% for the 12 months ending in February. The Bureau of Labor Statistics stated yesterday the figure was unchanged from a month earlier and largely in line with what analysts said their expectations would be. Experts are bracing for much bigger changes in March's report due to the war in Iran, which began, of course, on February 28th. The IEA is to release a record 400 million barrels of oil as prices are surging. The International Energy Agency said yesterday it is preparing the largest release of oil reserves in its history. To combat rising energy prices prompted by the war in Iran. The 32 member nations will release 400 million barrels, more than double the record set during Russia's 2022 invasion of the Ukraine. Medicare overpayments are costing seniors billions of dollars. American seniors paid significantly more in Medicare premiums last year due to alleged overpayments to private insurers. According to a new congressional report, the Joint Economic Committee found that overpayments to Medicare Advantage plans drove up Part B premiums by over $200 per beneficiary in 2025, a 10% increase that costs a collective $13.4 billion. And who's paying for that? Our seniors. Last but not least, AI is having a surprising effect on your work habits. The new data suggests that artificial intelligence is having an unexpected impact at the workplace. Workforce analytics firm Actitrack looked at the digital work activity of 164,000 people and found that AI actually made their workloads more intense. Workers spent more time on email and messaging apps and 9% less time on focused work like problem solving. What's likely happening is that, quote, the capacity immediately gets repurposed into doing work. That's the capacity of AI. The study is one of the largest to date, exploring AI's influence on work habits. And there you go, guys. A couple of Choose Views news items on this Thursday, March 12th, 2026. On today's Live, Local, and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be taking your calls and talking to Pat Kreitlow, founder of and editor of Up North News, former Illinois Governor Pat Quinn, and Heartland Signal's Rich Eberwine, with three stories that you might have missed from our digital newsroom. Live, Local, and Progressive weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT AM 820, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. Tonight on Driving It Home, Patty Vasquez will be talking to Illinois State Senator Mike Simmons, Democratic candidate for Congress in the 9th District of Illinois. Terry Cosgrove, senior advisor to Project 50 and former president and CEO of Personal Pack, along with Amy Litfield, author of the new book, Killers of Roe, a whodunit that investigates the death of abortion rights. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7, here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And tomorrow on Choose Views, we'll be taking your calls. Our guest in studio with us will be Karen Byrne, of course, from True Blue Politics Podcast. So we're going to line it up, guys. Karen and I will be talking about a variety of things and trying to squeeze in your calls as well. So look forward to having Karen in the studio with us tomorrow. Don't forget, we're on Facebook and we're reading your comments. So please leave your thoughts as well as like and share the page. Find it at facebook.com/WCPT820. Okay. The war in Iraq is got lots and lots of people concerned. We all should be. Iran, I should say. Apologize. Thank you, Henry. The war in Iran has got so many of us concerned about a lot of things. Obviously, you just talked about prices of the changes that the prices in oil will have on flying. It's a reality. And I said this yesterday about the impact it's going to have on certain things that are manufactured that are petroleum-based or use petroleum as part of their manufacturing. Those things are going to, it's inevitable. And we have a quick clip from Representative and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries to speak to that real quickly.
NBC News is reporting that President Trump has privately considered sending boots on the ground to Iran. Is there any scenario where you would support sending U.S. forces to be on the ground in Iran, Leader Jeffries?
No, and in fact, candidate Trump suggested that under no circumstances should American servicemen and women be put into harm's way in this particular type of situation, particularly as it relates to another endless war in the Middle East. And we are deeply saddened right now by the loss of 6 brave and heroic servicemen and women who have already lost their lives, and will continue to pray for their families and their loved ones. But the American people deserve answers from the administration as to how we're going to actually move forward in a way that makes America safer, not more vulnerable.
Well, there is a push for congressional oversight, but both the House and the Senate this week rejected a resolution to curb President Trump's war powers in Iran. And frankly, even 5 Democrats joined Republicans to block the resolution in those chambers. Does that effectively give President Trump a mandate to fight this war?
Not at all. The president, of course, has a responsibility first and foremost, to make his case to the American people, which he's failed to do. There's a reason why this president is deeply unpopular. His policies, including the one big ugly bill, are unpopular. And this war of choice in the Middle East are unpopular. As Democrats, we're going to continue to make the case to the American people that we should be stewards of spending their taxpayer dollars in a manner that actually is designed to make their life better and make their life more affordable, as opposed to another endless war in the Middle East where we're spending billions and billions of dollars to drop bombs and doing nothing to drop the high cost of living.
Hakeem Jeffries gets comments left and right. I mean, criticizing and complimenting him, and that's going to happen. I favor him in terms of what he's saying right now. Other things he said or strongly worded letters, I can't line up with that. But in this moment, the Democratic folks in the House of Representatives have to stay aligned. The 5 or 6 Democrats that didn't vote to have the War Powers Act be enacted or put in place, one of the things that I'm curious about is what their decision-making criteria was. But I also know that there are a couple that have been. It's been noted that they have been impacted by the money from AIPAC, and we'll talk with Melissa Bean. We'll talk with Representative Preston, or State Representative Preston, and Cat Ubazalei about the influence of AIPAC here in Illinois and what it's doing to affect our elections. Okay, so what do I want to say about this? And I had to ask myself, do I really want to get into this conversation? But I'm going to for a bit. We don't have a plan with this war in Iran. We don't have a plan. It's clear, a lot of the corporate media is going back and forth and trying to find a way to justify, it's this one day, it's that another day, then it's something else. And, Caroline Leavitt is showing incredibly well how inept she is. And she can't babysit her daddy, meaning Donald. She can babysit her own child, but she can't babysit her Donald, and continuing to look stupid. She is. But it's been verified now with this war in Iran that the U.S. is at fault, and this is reported by the New York Times. You guys heard about the strike that took place, the very first hours of the strike of this war, and they try to debate it and get around it and so forth. But it's beyond just Iranian officials saying that the school that the missile attack did strike killed a number of children, and a school full of children, in fact. And I'm not lost. I'm not at a loss for words about this. I'm just ticked off that anybody in America would step back and say that those children should have died under any measure, and to say that it was an accident or they had bad intel. I mean, we're the most powerful nation on the planet in so many categories. I mean, we say we are. We're the wealthiest nation, and with this, and we got the strongest military, but yet you can't get intel right because of how a wall was placed near us. This is unacceptable. It's flat out unacceptable. 175 children. And then we wonder why Iran is going to be PO'd at us. It is not going to be, already is. When we killed 175 of their babies. And intentionally or accidentally, it doesn't matter. But we got to take a break. I want to talk about this more. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. When we come back, we will be talking with Melissa Bean, candidate for Congress. We'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. As the Donald Trump administration forces ICE to go out grabbing innocent civilians off the streets, it's just kind of ironic how MAGA and even ICE themselves enjoy eating in Mexican restaurants. So let's look at some of the biggest Mexican restaurant chains that support the Democrat Party. Del Taco and Taco Cabana. Now, Del Taco and Taco Cabana are both owned by Yadav Enterprises. The company itself does not donate to politics. However, their founder and CEO, Anil Yadav, only donates to Democrats. Taco Bueno. Taco Bueno is owned by Sun Holdings. Sun Holdings as a company does not give to politics, but their CEO does, and he's kind of varies. He's donated to Hillary Clinton, and he's also donated to Marco Rubio. However, he has never donated a single cent to Donald Trump. So MAGA, since you have a problem with undocumented immigrants but love eating their food, I have a solution. How about you go order a taco salad from Trump Tower? Don't worry, it's as authentic as your president's tan. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. A high wind watch goes into effect early on Friday morning. First for today, we'll have mostly sunny skies with high temperatures in the upper 40s. Then for tonight, rain showers developing, a low of 36. South winds increasing to 20 to 30. For your Friday, very windy, partly sunny, a high of 46. West winds 25 to 35 miles per hour. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 30 degrees.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. It is March 12th. Oh my goodness. Tomorrow's Friday the 13th. Everybody have this. I'm not a believer in Friday the 13th. I always like to have fun and do something, just poke fun at the historical superstition around Friday the 13th, But that being said, we are so excited this morning. We've got three folks that are running for Congress in different districts. Chicago, Illinois, the Chicagoland area, the state of Illinois, we're kind of the center of the universe right now. I mean, other states have got big things going on. Texas obviously has. We've had things that took place in Tennessee, obviously things that have taken place in New York and North Carolina. Georgia, I mean, there's a lot going on, but Illinois has really got a lot going on. We've got two legendary leaders stepping down and not running again. Actually, no, three. Danny Davis, Jan Schakowsky, and Dick Durbin. And then, of course, Congresswoman Kelly is running for office, as is Raja Krishnamurthy running for Senate. So we got a lot going on. And one of the people that's running hard and has been with us before, running for Congress, is Melissa Bean, who's hanging out with us this morning. Good morning, Melissa. Welcome back to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. It's good to be back with you.
Yeah, you say that now. I'm just playing. It's 6:30 in the morning. So if we're going to be up this early this morning talking about important stuff, we've got to approach it with a little bit of humor, I think. So
yes, we do. It's cold, and at least it's not rainy and no hail this morning. Man,
if people, we've always said this. You have if you grew up in Chicago, region, or the area will definitely groom you for living anywhere on the planet, because we get it all, and it's only been 4 days, and we've had every bit of weather you could imagine in terms of the range. So we know how we roll here. Melissa, I take it you've been well. I know you've been campaigning your tail off, and in a fight with some talented people like yourself. But right now, I probably, like anybody else, want to know sort of where you stand. What's really going to be your last? Not last, but in these days leading up to next Tuesday, what's the biggest thing you're trying to convey to people that you are wanting to get to vote for you?
Well, I think what I'm really trying to do is reflect what I'm hearing from people, and people have a sense of urgency. They're very concerned, and it really hasn't changed much since I talked to you last, about both the American dream becoming less available, but also our American values, which have been sorely tested by this president and the Republican Congress. People didn't sign up to have a Congress that does nothing, and that's what they're getting right now. These Republicans have taken a knee, and they're letting the country be run by executive fiat. The most recent example of many examples is getting into a war without really working with Congress and allowing the people's voices to be heard. And those are the priorities. That's what I'm focused on, is trying to restore those things, those values, the Constitution, and the American dream, which is what I think people are really looking for. And having been there before, and proud of my accomplishments from when I did serve with President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and with Democrats, we got a lot done. This is a do-nothing contrast to what was done when Democrats had the majority, and we need it back so we can hold this president to account and start working again for the American people.
Yeah, I think right now, I would agree with you in terms of what you're trying to do. I mean, I'm not running, you are, but listening to what people are saying, what their concerns are, what they're feeling, what all those things are critically important. I had a listener yesterday ask this question, and essentially asked me to ask you guys this question. You've got a certain number of things, or certain things that are part of sort of your regular conversation that you got to talk about. But what is it that you would say, Melissa, makes you special / different, or setting yourself apart from the other candidates as it relates to what you're actually going to do? You've been there before, so you know how to roll when you're in the halls of Congress, but it's different this time, to your own point. What's separating you from the other candidates that's definitive, and you can go, this is what I'm going to get done. I'm going to walk in the door, and I use this phrase a lot, Melissa, and it'll make you chuckle. I'm bringing a sledgehammer to knock over some tables. What is that thing that separates you?
Well, you just said it. It's the experience, the fact that I have been there, that I've done this before, that I know how to win, both electorally, and that was even when it was a Republican district, but also that I know how to get things done, and that I have delivered. I'm the only one with legislative experience in this race. We have a lot of shared values among the candidates in this race. We have a big bench, but there are no others who've served in the state house or Senate or in the U.S. Congress. And I have a brand and a record of getting there and getting things done and being a problem solver. So that's the differentiator. What are the things that I would do? I think there's a lot of things that we have to do. So, part of it on the American Dream side is making sure we immediately get the subsidies back for healthcare. So young people and really all Americans do have access to affordable care. That's something that ugly bill, the BBB, I won't call it beautiful, the bought by billionaires bill that the Republicans passed with Trump's support. It really cut access with those affordable tax credits. It cut over $1 trillion from the ACA and Medicaid. It's unacceptable. And that would be the first thing that we would do together. But on the value side, we have to hold this president to account. And I know a lot of people have talked about it, but there are things we can do immediately by statute. Sadly, some of those things never needed to be done by statute because we never had a president like this before that has run right over the norms. And we're going to have to turn it into law because we've run up against someone who doesn't respect those norms. And that would have to start day one.
That's one of the things, what you just said there about norms. A lot of people don't realize that the reason that Donald Trump is able to get away with or push forward some of the things that are happening right now is because many of them are not laws per se. They have been norms. Many of them, other things are law or they are constitutional, have constitutional requirements to attach to them. But there are things that need to be put in place and need to be law. They need to be assigned by Congress. And so I'm hoping, and this is a question and a statement, that someone like you, that if you were to win this seat and go on to Congress, that, you can say, we don't have the privilege of time. And you did just say that, but that's the part that's going to be tough. If assuming we were to take back the House, we take back the House, and let's just say that Hakeem Jeffries is the Speaker of the House. We don't have any time, Melissa. You know this as well as I do. Y'all got to walk in the door and immediately go for the jugular. I think the biggest mistake that Democrats can make this time around, if we take back the House, and what a blessing if we took back the Senate. We almost have to be, I take this the right way, we almost have to act like the bully in the playground. We have to walk in darn near threatening that this is what we're going to do right out of the gate. Are there plans?
To your point, and to your point, actions speak louder than words. We have to go there. But also, you talked about Hakeem Jeffries as Speaker. That will be so key because part of the reason this president has gotten away with what he's gotten away with is we have the weakest Speaker in the history of our nation. He has just let the president take congressional responsibility, and we have cowardly members of Congress who don't want to take the votes. The reason they're letting him do the work is, one, they don't want to do the work, and two, they don't want to be held accountable for their votes, so they're just hiding in Cheney's undisclosed location. That's what's going on with these Republicans, and that's just not what our party is about. It's certainly not what I'm about. We need to get there and be held accountable. One of the things that, I don't know if I mentioned it to you, I think I did when we spoke last, is one of my unfinished pieces of business is my congressional accountability bill that I was not able to get done when I was in Congress, that I really want to push for, and I think people would like to have, is it would require every member of Congress to use their taxpayer-funded website to list every single vote that they've cast. Because what they do now is they use their official website like it's a campaign website, which they already have. And on their website for the campaign, that is a way for you to get your messaging out and to be selective. But voters deserve a place to go easily to know exactly what you've done and what you've said, because sometimes there's a disconnect between those two things. And that would be really important. It wouldn't be difficult to do.
Yeah, you did mention that before, and I'm in agreement with that because that's about transparency. That's about letting people know what you're doing in Congress, not you specifically, but congressional leaders as a whole. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We are speaking with Melissa Bean, who's running for Congress here in the state of Illinois in our 8th Congressional District. Melissa, let's talk a little bit about the quote-unquote elephant in the room that you may have some opportunity to do something about if you were to get to Congress, and that's campaign financing and where money's coming from. I was watching a couple of commercials about a little over a week ago, and it was just really dragging Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton through the mud. There's been others that have been dragged through the mud. You've been thrown against the wall, and pretty much it seems as though Illinois is one of the hot spots for some outside money, whether it be AIPAC, Fair Shake, and others that are coming after folks that are running for Congress, whether it be House or Senate. And all of you are catching some of it. But it's really, when I did my deep dive, it's money that's coming from crypto-funded Republican political action committees. Talk a little bit about that and what you want to or would like to see done if you're in one of those seats.
Well, I had supported campaign finance reform when I was in Congress, and I would definitely do that again. We definitely need greater transparency. It's no longer the days of McCain-Feingold. Partly that's true because the Supreme Court ruled in a way that their recognition of freedom of speech, their interpretation of it is broader than in many other countries. And I think that we need to find a workaround on that so that we can limit the amounts of money that are contributed to campaigns. But we need the majority back to do that again. So I do support that. At the same time, we have some folks out there making pledges. I don't want anybody to support me or whatever. I just don't think we as Democrats should tie our hands behind our back. In 4 days, one of us is going to prevail and run against potentially a very well-funded Republican. And so we shouldn't tie our hands behind our back when the Republicans are not calling for that. And that's where I'm at on that.
One of the things that has been on my mind about this is how many people feel like, because of the big money in politics across the board, it's on the left, it's on the right, there's no question about it, that their vote isn't mattering as much. And I think it's a conversation also around voter suppression, because a lot of people feel that if big money is so deeply embedded in politics on a state level, on a federal level, then why should I vote anyhow? Because I don't feel like my vote's going to really matter. How do you address that? I know it's part of the campaign finance reform conversation, but on a personal level with somebody that you talk to that comes up and says, Melissa, listen, there's so much money in this game. Well, why does my vote even matter?
It does matter. And I think people should never feel that. I mean, we've seen races that have been really, really tight, and, it's important. Every vote can make a difference. I know when I lost my seat, when I voted for Obamacare and it cost me an election, it was 280 votes. It was less than 1/1000th of a percent. So I know from that perspective, every vote really matters. And I don't think people should ever feel that way. They got to get out there. And I was not alone. That was a year where Democrats took a big hit, 60 seats. We're now hoping in this midterm, it's going to be the opposite. And we're going to be picking up those 60 seats and taking the majority. But your vote does matter. But I do truly appreciate the concerns. It's why we do need campaign finance reform, because the big money shouldn't matter more. And I actually really like what some countries do is they have public funding of elections, that if you are the candidate for various party and it's a recognized party, that you get X amount of dollars and that's what you get to spend. And also, I think people would like this a lot. There are countries like the UK where you can only campaign for 90 days. So no commercials a year in advance or 6 months in advance, and people get tired of it. It's 90 days. That's when you get to put your message out there, and then you vote. And I think there's some things we could learn from other countries in that regard.
There's a lot that we can learn from other countries. I know you know what I'm talking about. There's so many things we can learn from other countries, and if we're gonna be honest about that, we should try to put ourselves in that mindset. But that's a conversation for another day. Melissa, I think that another concern that people have right now as it relates to this upcoming election, all across the board, the primaries and then the election this fall. The Dems take back the House of Representatives. The Dems take back the U.S. Senate. How are the Dems going to keep it? Because we know that the cycle, to your point about what UK does with regard to election campaigning and all that, we know the cycle is going to start pretty much the day after you're inaugurated, or sworn in, rather. How do we stop this cycle of? I mean, I know that constitutionally it's every 2 years and every 6 years on the federal level. But what do you think is going to be got to happen for Democrats to not get back to the situation where, oh my gosh, we're going to give up 16 seats in the House and we're going to lose the House again and we're going to be back to where we are now, and then people are going to go, here we go, wash, rinse, and repeat. What's got to happen for us to not slip or to take to the positive, Melissa, to maintain the numbers as we go forward?
Well, I think we have had a history that when we've got the majority, we get things done for the people. We are the party of the people, and we need to demonstrate that. We have to deliver. I mean, I'm proud I was there. I mentioned we got things done. I mean, we got Obamacare passed. We got Lilly Ledbetter equal pay for women passed. We got Wall Street reforms with a CFPB, which returned $20 billion to people, passed. We got small business, the SBA lending bill, which I wrote and Obama signed to support small businesses that are creating jobs and helping would-be entrepreneurs realize their dreams. And that's what we have to get back to, is there's a lot of anger, and it is understandable with what this president and these Republicans have allowed to happen. They've trampled on the Constitution. There's no due process. People don't feel safe walking in their own communities. That anger is real, but we have to convert it to action and deliver for the people. That's what we need to do. And I also think how we message matters. And I'll just give you an example. When we passed Obamacare, and we brought in at the time 30 million people who didn't have coverage, who now have coverage because we got that passed. And it's now, I think, up to 70 million people that are part of Obamacare. The challenge, and now we could lose some because of what the Republicans have done to gut it and to cut the subsidies. But when we messaged, we only talked about the people who didn't have coverage. What we didn't talk about is that bill was primarily an insurance reform bill. And so we stopped insurance companies from dropping people with pre-existing conditions. We required them to provide coverage to people who had it from the get-go. Because in the past, bankruptcies were being driven. People would pay premiums for 15 years, and then the insurance company would say, oh, well, you had this one thing you didn't tell us about when you signed up 15 years ago. And even though we've been taking your money for 15 years, now you've got a major catastrophe, we're dropping you. And that literally happened. It doesn't happen anymore. It can't happen. They also used to have caps on how much they would pay. And that would drive people into bankruptcy. They had coverage. They weren't dropped, but they only got $2 million against a $4 million bill. And so we got rid of those things. But we didn't message on those latter things to the people that already were covered. And sadly, a lot of times people are so busy with their own struggles, they're not thinking about other people. They're only thinking about, what did you do for me? And we didn't tell the people who already had coverage, here's what we've done for you. That's just one example.
I would agree that didn't happen. And I remember thinking, because of my background in insurance and financial planning, that needed to be yelling that from the rooftops 24/7 so people could go, really? I didn't. Oh, okay. So if this big bill comes, I do have the backboard is there. It's no longer going to be I'm going to run out. I'm going to hit that lifetime maximum. So I would agree with you in that space. So, all right. You had some great endorsements of late. Tell us what endorsements mean to you, why they matter. Some people don't really care about endorsements because that's someone playing, not favorites, Melissa, but someone just saying, yeah, Melissa's my girl. I got her. She's, you know what I mean? It's why do endorsements, in your opinion, matter at this particular time?
Well, I think we're in the final 4 days of this campaign. And so I think at this point, the endorsement that matters most is the endorsement from the people. And the response I've been getting has been just so overwhelmingly positive. That's what I feel at the doors when I'm knocking. That's what I feel at the train stations when I'm out there at 5:30 in the morning talking to people. But I am proud. And I think the reason it matters to some people is those who've entrusted Tammy Duckworth as our soon-to-be senior senator, someone that they feel has got my back. Well, if she feels, well, Melissa did a good job and is going to come back, that's important to me. So I'm happy to get her support, and Bill Foster's and Brad Schneider's, and other people here in Illinois like Jesse White, but also leaders like Nancy Pelosi and Steny Hoyer, who know that I worked hard and I got things done and I helped carry important legislation over the finish line. But one of the ones I'm really proud of is the Committee to Protect Social Security and Medicare, because for our seniors, they're very concerned. And as we've seen layoffs in Social Security, it's harder for them to even get somebody on the phone if they've got a question or if they haven't received a check. And that one is important. And it actually surprised me when I heard, not that I got it, but when someone said to me, you had a 100% score with us. And I was like, well, doesn't everybody? Like, who doesn't support social? And he said, no, actually, you're one of the few, because there have been opportunities. And now I'm going back in memory. There were times where certain other priorities would come up and they wanted to raid those trust funds. Mm-hmm. And you just can't do that. No. People are counting on them. They put their money in there. They've been paying in, and they need to be able to rely on it. So I was very, very proud of that. And, getting support from friends in labor, getting the Chicago Tribune and the Daily Herald, who ask a lot of questions. And, I think it's a rigorous process, and continuing to get their endorsements as I have in the past. I appreciate them, but I don't think it's the most important thing.
The voters, what really matter, obviously, we know that, and I appreciate that you were aware that that's the most important endorsement. How are you? Where do you think you'll land in terms of, you've been not a centrist, moderate. Maybe that's the words that just the labeling doesn't really always fit. But it seems as though you've been, that right now, voters, folks in the country want someone that's going to come in, and if they've got to lean away from the party trying to be more centrist, that you're going to move in the direction of being a little bit more, for lack of better words, more progressive, more liberal. I mean, talk about how that's impacted you.
Well, I think, the things we just talked about that we got done were progressive. They created a lot of progress for this country. And first, we have to go in and restore the parts of those things that we've already accomplished that have been gutted by Republicans. And then we have to build on that progress. I don't think the labels really matter. It's about what are you delivering for people. And, I think it's about, if it's a good idea, if it's the right thing to do, then do it. That's where I've always been, and that's been my brand. And if I got to work across the aisle because we're in the minority, and the only way this bill is going to get to the House floor, I need a Republican sponsor who's going to go be able to get the speaker to bring something to floor, then that's what I'm going to do. That's what I did with my internet safety bill that I was able to get done when I was still in the minority. And so, you don't always have the advantage of the majority. So you got to go where you can build consensus and get things done.
Absolutely. Melissa Bean, it's a joy again to talk to you. And I'm excited for everyone that's running, because we need people that are going to take the ball and run hard so that we get things done. And it sounds like you've been reminded in this campaign that it's about getting things done for the voters. Let folks know in these last few days how they can follow, find you, support you as you make it to next Tuesday.
Well, I think it's first important to just remind people, votes on Tuesday. You can still early vote. Even if someone's not registered, they can show up and they can register and vote during the early voting, not on Election Day. But with that reminder, I just want to say I'm honored and I'm humbled that I've had the opportunity to represent the people of the 8th District. I've worked hard. I've delivered. I'm proud of that success, and asking for support between now and Tuesday so that I can once again take on what is really an immense responsibility to be an agent of change and to be the voice of the people of the 8th District. And I would like to do that with, I think, the kind of dignity and respect that we need to restore to our political world.
Absolutely. Melissa Bean, thanks for being with us this morning. We wish everybody success, and particularly those who are fighting hard like you. We look forward to talking to you again on the other side of this crazy election next week. Thanks, Melissa.
Richard, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
You too.
Right. Quick break, 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. When we come back, we will be talking with Willie Preston, who is also running for Congress here in the great state of Illinois. We'll be right back.
Robin Kelly grew up behind the register in her dad's grocery store. So she knows what it means when the same groceries cost more each week. Under Donald Trump, corporations get tax breaks, loopholes, and a green light to price gouge. Families get higher grocery bills, higher childcare costs, high healthcare premiums. It's Trump's economy. Corporate profits first, people last. In Congress, Robin Kelly's been fighting back. Robin took on insurance companies to lower drug costs. She wrote the law extending Medicaid for new moms to a full year because cutting care after 60 days was just wrong. And now Robin Kelly is running for Senate with a people over profits agenda. Medicare for all, so healthcare isn't a ripoff. Cap on childcare costs so families can work. And crack down on corporate price gouging so you're not punished at every turn. People over profits. Robin Kelly for U.S. Senate.
I'm Robin Kelly, Democrat running for U.S. Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Robin Kelly for Senate.
This is the WCPT Moment in Labor. In 2011, 6 Jimmy John's employees in Minneapolis were fired by their franchise-owning company, Mickey Lynn Enterprises, after fighting for paid sick days. This is a common theme in the union-free world of fast food. Over 13 million Americans work in the fast food industry, making an average of $13,500 a year, not even half the average cost of living. 80% of fast food workers have experienced work-related injuries, and only 13% were covered by their employer. A group of employees referred to as the Jimmy John's Six fought for these rights, creating an online campaign, posting a picture of 2 sandwiches saying one of these was made by a healthy employee, the other was made by a sick employee. Can you tell the difference? Too bad, as Jimmy John's workers do not get paid sick days. Help workers win sick days. More than 32 million Americans work a job that does not offer paid sick days. This has been a WCPT Moment in Labor. We're working for your rights.
Amazon Business empowers leaders with smart business buying tools, leaving time to focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future at AmazonBusiness.com.
AP News, I'm Mike Hempel. The U.S.-Israeli war with Iran is in its 13th day and shows no signs of ending anytime soon. Iran has been attacking commercial ships around the Strait of Hormuz and an Iraqi port, escalating a campaign of squeezing the oil-rich Gulf region as global energy concerns mount. AP correspondent Karen Shamus reports on the rising oil prices.
Unyielding Iranian missile attacks on shipping traffic and energy infrastructure has again pushed oil above $100 a barrel as the US and Israel relentlessly struck Iran. Iran hit an oil container off the coast of Dubai on Thursday, causing a blaze near Bahrain's international airport. The Islamic Republic also targeted a major Saudi oil field with a drone attack and forced Iraq to halt operations at all of the country's oil terminals after an attack on its Basra port on the Persian Gulf. Analyst Jessica Caldwell says the rise in oil prices is not uncommon in these situations.
We saw the same thing in 2012 when Russia invaded Ukraine, rather.
Iran's attacks came as American and Israeli strikes pounded Iran with no sign of an end to the war in sight. I'm Karen Shamas.
U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran has damaged at least 4 cultural and historical sites across the country. Experts and advocates have raised alarm about the impact of the widening war on protective landmarks that are important to Iranian history. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he is awaiting White House approval for a major drone production agreement proposed by Ukraine last year. Zelensky says the deal would cover various types of drones and air defenses to protect against swarms of Iranian-designed drones. This is AP News. Senegal is the latest African country to toughen punishment for homosexual acts.
Senegal's parliament has approved a bill that toughens punishment for homosexuality in a largely conservative Western African nation. It doubles the punishment from prison sentences of 1 to 5 years to between 5 and 10 years. In another change, the bill would now punish what it calls the promotion or financing of homosexuality, an attempt to crack down on organizations to support sexual and gender minorities. Government ministers argued ahead of the vote that the country's previous 1966 law was too lenient. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
States are setting new rules for cash purchases after the U.S. Mint stopped making pennies and the 1-cent coins became scarcer. Some states are considering legislation to allow or require businesses to round purchase totals to the nearest nickel. I'm Mike Hempen, AP News.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. A high wind watch goes into effect early on Friday morning. First for today, we'll have mostly sunny skies with high temperatures in the upper 40s. Then for tonight, rain showers developing, a low of 36. South winds increasing to 20 to 30. For your Friday, very windy, partly sunny, a high of 46. West winds 25 to 35 miles per hour. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 30 degrees.
In times of uncertainty, we need leaders who put country before party. Dan Tully answered that call, serving our nation with honor.
I served in the Army Reserve and as a federal civil servant. But when the Trump agenda threatened our democracy, I refused to stay silent. I left my job in Washington in protest of Trump's lawlessness.
Dan Tully is the only candidate with a detailed plan to hold Trump accountable, a veteran, a principled leader, and ready to fight for you.
Visit DanTully.com to see my comprehensive strategy for accountability. I'm Dan Tully, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Dan Tully for Congress.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Richard Chu's got his eyes on the truth.
And you're right where you need to be.
This is Chu's Views.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. It was great having a conversation with Melissa Bean, who's running for Congress, U.S. Congress, in the 8th Congressional District here in Illinois. We got a strong bench, guys. It's too bad we don't have, like, other seats that we could, for the people that are running for congressional seats that may not be the winner. I don't say anyone's a loser, but may not win the seat. We got strong people running. And, of course, in the Illinois' 2nd Congressional District, we have another competitive race. And with us this morning is one of our own state senators from the state legislature of Illinois that gets stuff done. And that is State Senator Willie Preston, who's been with us before. Good morning, State Senator. Happy to be with you this morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. This is a little better for me because we're actually in person. I know I surprised you by how tall I am in person. But, you know, I get that a lot.
I had someone say to me the other day that came in, that I won't mention the person's name, but we had someone that came in the studio and they went, wow, you're a big dude.
Yeah. But, you know, you have stature. I can assure you that. When I walked in, I said, okay.
That happens every now and again. Senator Preston, it is, when I use the words, we have a strong bench, it's because we do. In many elections, state elections, not only here in Illinois, But we were just talking about Mississippi off air. Dr. Dupree won the state Senate down there to break up that majority that they have. Yeah. 3 women in Iowa. Caitlin Dray, I'm drawing a blank. And then, Miss Hardiman, Renee Hardiman, she won state Senate seat. So we've got a lot of people running and winning on a state level. And, of course, you're running for a federal seat in this 2nd Congressional District. So my first question to you this morning, now that we're 4 days from the election, is that set-aside question. I know, right? You go, wow, you kind of it snuck up on you, didn't it? I could see you were like, what? 4 days? But we're basically 4 days of campaigning away from the election. What is it that you would say in a field that's crowded, a field that's got a lot of competitive, good people running, that is your set-aside? I asked Melissa Bean this question just a few minutes ago. What separates you from the other folks that are running without you having to throw any cold water on those other people that are running?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's necessary. Look, I'm closing this campaign largely how I started it, being authentic, being audacious, and we are different because I am like the people that I want to represent. You know, I'm a working class person. I was in Glenwood, Illinois a couple of nights ago, and I asked folks to raise their hands if they consider themselves working class people, and they all raised their hand. And I explained to them very clearly, I'm running to represent us because I'm one of us. Mm-hmm. You know what working class people do? They work. Yeah. I've been working my entire life. I've been on the campaign trail telling folks, I didn't intend to be a politician. I started my career as a janitor. It was the furthest thing from my mind. My wife and I have 6 children, and I joke, but it seemed like every time I came home, she said she had something to tell me. She was pregnant. And so I went back out the door, and I became a janitor. I was a butcher. I worked overnight at Home Depot, ultimately became a carpenter, started a small business with my wife. These are the people that populate the 2nd Congressional District. And I believe that largely folks want someone representing them that is like them. Mm-hmm. And so in this crowded field, you have, super famous people, Jesse Jackson Jr. You have people who have been flooded with dark money inside of this district and lifted up as some caricature that they're coming to save the common person. And it's just not true. You have people in the 2nd Congressional District that are starving for somebody that's going to just fight for them, mm-hmm. just fight for them, and not just go along and be a part of the political class. And I believe we're going to make some real history in the nation come Tuesday because people are going to say, wow, who is that? Mm-hmm. And I can tell you right now, for those who are going to be asking that question in a couple of days after we're successful and staging what I will believe will be characterized to go down in history as the biggest upset in American politics, I'm Willie Preston, just a simple guy who loves his family, loves his community, and believes that we can do better, that we can actually build a level 2 trauma hospital in the south suburbs so that women are not having babies on the side of the expressway like a woman did a couple of months ago. We had a woman from Dalton, Illinois, went to Indiana, went across the border, because this is a border district in many parts of it, border Indiana. She went over there because she didn't have access to health care. Mm-hmm. They denied her care, and on the way back to Illinois, she had her baby on the side of the expressway. That's unacceptable. Yeah. And we can do better, and government can play a vital role in ensuring that never, ever happens, no matter what zip code you live in.
And that's a big part of the conversation right now is just so many things that are happening that we keep coming back to. This shouldn't be happening in our country, but it is.
But it is.
And it's a direct reflection of lack, not even a lack of leadership. I'm not going to say lack of leadership. I mean, that might slip out of my mouth every now and again. It's just poor leadership. It's bad leadership. And we see it on a lot of levels, and not just in politics, but we see it in some of our social organizations. We see it in a lot of our business organizations where it's just very, very bad leadership. But I want to come back to something that I'd like you to define a little bit better. Not better, but maybe more for people who want to get a better understanding, and that is this. And I've asked this question before of other people. What is your definition of working class? Because I think a lot of people have their thoughts of what working class is. But I want to get your take on that.
Yeah, no, I think for me, someone that has to go to work to provide for their family, they can't afford to take months or a year off. These are people that can't, many in cases, can't go without a paycheck being missing. Those are many of the people in the 2nd Congressional District, for sure. These are people who have largely been around in communities that have been disinvested in. And look, you can look around. We just had a tragedy happen, and thank God no one lost their lives in the 2nd Congressional District. But with the storms, these folks are willing right now. They need help. These are not bums. These are working class people who get up and go to work every day. But with the snap of Mother Nature, their lives have been upended. And they need support right now. If you look at what's coming out of Washington from poor leadership, with the cuts from FEMA, these people are going to suffer because their government, who they pay taxes to, has decided that they are not a priority, and billionaires are. And so I'm grateful that I've been in constant contact with all of the local leadership down in Kankakee, the governor's office, and we're going to be helpful at the state level. But the truth of the matter is that we need a federal government. We need leadership at the federal level that's focused on these people that are working hard every day, construction workers, transportation workers, people in retail, people who work at McDonald's or 7-Eleven, who are getting up, working their butts off every single day, but they don't have a lobbyist on K Street. And when you talk about poor leadership, let me be very clear. Poor leadership doesn't start once you get to Washington or Springfield. It starts on the road that got you there. And it's important how you get into office. Rest assured, AIPAC, the AI crypto companies, all of these companies that are donating to candidates are doing so to ensure that the status quo remains intact, because it works for a small number of people who has hoarded all of the wealth amongst them and their friends. And so I'm proud to have the truest grassroots campaign that's actually got a chance at winning.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing this intentionally, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I understand how powerful it is once you're elected by the people. And the reason I know this is because this is how I became a state senator. I was outspent 30-1. All of the lobbyists, I didn't know any of them, but they seemed to know my former opponent really well. And so they had spent millions of dollars. And come election night, we blew them out. And come election night, Tuesday night, we may not blow them out, but we're going to win the election. And we're going to go into Washington with a mandate from regular working class people. And that's powerful, you know.
Yeah.
So we're really excited. We're closing this down strongly, and all across this district, you can hear people honking their horns, coming out of their window saying, "One of us. He's one of us."
Thank you for that. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM, and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking with State Senator Willie Preston, Illinois State Senator Willie Preston, who is also one of the big voices, but a regular guy, one of us, that's running for U.S. Congress in the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. You just mentioned something a moment ago about money in politics, and I was speaking with Melissa Bean earlier about this. I caught wind of a couple of advertisements that are out there that were just hammering Lieutenant Governor Stratton, who's running for a U.S. Senate in Durban seat, and a few others throughout the state that are, just getting hammered. And I said, I got to look into this and see where this is coming from. And obviously, you dig a little bit and you find more. And to your point, a lot of the money that's coming is outside money. Fair Shake is one of the organizations that is just lambasting pretty much every Democrat that's running in the state of Illinois for any seat. And it seems as though, we know that this is outside crypto Republican-funded money. And I look at it as, to use the old phrase that we know in our community, is just to stir up some mess.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. And I asked Melissa this question. I'm going to ask you, it's kind of the same thing. What are you going to do? How are you going to navigate this big conversation around campaign finance reform and money in politics?
Well, the first thing that I can do is win against the money. I think that is going to be important. And that, again, will afford me a mandate to go before the nation and speak to 434 other members of Congress and explain to them that this money is destroying the union.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that these large entities, these conglomerations are somehow people was, to me, one of the greatest failures in modern history from the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this government was designed to be for the people, of the people. And when you allow this money to come in, it can suffocate the voice of regular people. There's already loose laws when it comes to the allowance of misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
Now we have to contend with AI and all of these groups where folks can actually really get away with character assassination and not even have their fingerprints on it. And so when you add that with independent expenditures, we don't know who these people are. It is very, very dangerous. I can assure you that there are people who could not find Dalton, Illinois, which is in the 2nd Congressional District, could not find the 7th Ward, the 9th Ward. They couldn't find it on a map. They have no clue.
Yeah.
And they're completely involved in this race through the power of their wealth.
Yeah.
And they don't do that because they want to build doulas, or they don't do that because they want to build birthing centers or a trade school so that we build the next generation of carpenters, plumbers, and electricians, which I want to do as I've been empowered to speak about this by the people in the 2nd Congressional District. And so as we navigate this, I think that we have to go and we have to be bold. And I think that when you look at that saying, is this the hill you're ready to die on?
Mm-hmm.
I take that pledge today. And it's not for this election. It's because our entire nation is threatened by the conglomerations of money that are influencing our politics. The voice of the American people has to be given back to the American people. And right now, I can say with clarity, it is not in the hands of the American people. It's in the hand of the billionaire, millionaire class through the power of their purse. I won't stand for it. I'm going to fight against it. I'm going to fight to make sure that we win. And it's important for me to say this. It's not good enough just to fight.
Mm-hmm.
We have to fight and win.
Yeah. You know, it's funny you said that because I asked Melissa kind of a similar question. You know, we know our political cycle on a federal level, and that's the office that you're running for. It's a 2-year cycle, and you're back, you know, the day after you're sworn in, you're back in that mix of getting ready for the next cycle. We know that that's the case. We know that's how the ball game is. But what do we have to do? And I think I know what your answer is, but I want to at least ask you the question so you can respond to it. What do we as Democrats have to do, whether you are progressive or wherever you are on the scale, but you're a Democrat? What do we have to do to stop losing through the next cycle? What do we have to do to win and stay on the momentum and stay in the offices and keep doing the things that you say so desperately have to be done so that everyday folks keep winning? What's the secret sauce here, in your opinion?
You know what? I think that we've already uncovered this. It's been tried and true. You are a vital resource for people in this country. We have to make sure that the media is still independent. You look at Jeff Bezos buying up these, the Washington Times and all these other...
Washington Post.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I apologize. Washington Post. And we have to make sure that our people declare that the billionaire class cannot own the American public. And by that I mean, you look at the crypto companies. They want to flood and inundate our cities. You look at the 2nd Congressional District. It's a pretty poor district, 2nd poorest district in the state of Illinois. They have flooded in $1 million. They want to put their data centers all throughout the 2nd Congressional District, which we have environmental challenges and questions that we have to ask. What the American people have to do is they have to make sure that they did what they've always done. Fight them back.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have tea to throw in the lake anymore in the rivers, but we do have these ballots that we call our precious democracy, throw back these mailers, throw them back in their face. Let the billionaires and millionaires know that they will not be hoodwinked. If you see a candidate that has overnight received $5 million, you should make sure that you reject that candidate immediately because they have been purchased. And that's one of the pushbacks. We have an important opportunity before us to really say once and for all that the majority of the people in this nation who are not billionaires and millionaires, they matter. This is our nation, and that we should make sure that we are filling our government up with representatives of us. And it's going to be challenging because people are confused. Mm-hmm. These are not unintelligent people. These are people that have been misinformed because you take a case like mine. I haven't raised millions of dollars in this race, but we have to go and fight harder than anybody else. And that's okay. I'm designed to do that. But I want to make sure that independent media is intact because you all are you are the levelers of the playing field. You really are. And you have such a vital responsibility because bringing candidates on like myself, I want you to bring my opponents on if they other candidates on. We should all be, we should give voters the real true opportunity to kick the tires and determine who they want to represent them. And again, I don't think if nothing else, if I'm elected to Congress, that's going to be one of the major fights that I bring to this nation to end this sickness of destroying our democracy by allowing Citizens United to allow these major corporations to essentially buy our election, buy our congressional seats, our U.S. Senate seats for themselves and their interest.
It's interesting that you say that because one of the things that I talk about and report on as best I can is this to that very point about conglomerations and in the media and in information delivery, so even a broader term, this Paramount deal where they're pushing hard, they're using their money to basically purchase Disney. And in doing that, it's going to consolidate even more the messaging that you just talked about and why independent media is so vitally important right now because of the fact that we do try our best to make sure that we're presenting a case that is a case for so many more people than just the narrowly focused, oftentimes, message that comes from corporate media. So it's going to be an uphill fight in that space. But, yeah, Citizens United has to go. A couple last quick questions as we wrap up, and thanks for coming in to hang out with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. What's your position on these data centers? You mentioned it, and it was a question I wanted to ask you, but since you brought it to the table, data centers are popping up in so many places throughout the country. I had the honor of speaking with General Russell Honore down in Louisiana, the Raging Cajun, as he's called, and you remember his legendary work during Katrina. And he is really, with his Green Army, pushing hard and fighting back on what data centers are doing to communities that have been underfunded, underrepresented, misrepresented, and extracted from. And now data centers are being landed in those communities. Talk to us.
I'm the chairman of the Consumer Protection Committee in the state of Illinois in the Illinois Senate. And so I care deeply and focus on making sure that we protect Illinoisans already. When I see these data centers, I'm truly concerned. I don't understand how we are going to allow an industry and technology that has the power to, and this is not me just watching movies, right? But have the power to actually eliminate human life. I mean, it's super intelligent. There's so much we don't know. Now, I'm for progress, but progress means getting things done responsibly. Mm-hmm. And so I think we have to regulate. We have to study this. We have to make sure that we regulate. We have smart people. We have people that can actually look at this. But guess what? Pretty soon, if we allow this to be the Wild Wild West, pun intended, we're going to allow this technology to be more intelligent and potentially eliminate human life. I mean, this is where we're at. This is greater than the Industrial Revolution. It's going to be 100 times more impactful and 100 times faster.
The key.
And that is where we're concerned about. I want to preserve human life at all costs. And I think anytime you have billionaires that are putting their interest first and their thirst to consolidate more and more wealth at all costs. That's their job. It's government's job to also be the adults in the room and regulate it and put the American people first. And we don't know the dangers that exist with this technology. We have to be more measured with our approach to AI. Not to stop it. I don't want to lose the race against China or any other nation. However, I also want to make sure that we are not we're not opening up a door where the AI, robots, and technology are so advanced, so intelligent that they realize they can eliminate us.
Yeah.
And we have to, that's serious. And you look, funniest thing, even Elon Musk said it himself.
Yeah.
That it's crazy that we don't have regulation. Now, I guess he's probably pivoted because now he wants to, he's looking at his bottom line like, I can make a I can make a buttload of money off this. Well, let's just let him do it. But no, he may have that interest. But I have a 3-year-old grandson, and I'm thinking about preserving this planet for him. And so when we think about environmental justice, we think about making sure that we protect the American people and their interests long term. As it pertains to AI, I believe we should be studying it and studying how we regulate it and limit its potential to bring harm to the American people.
As much as we are concerned, all of us, about losing the race against another country when it comes to technology and advancement, let's not put ourselves in a situation where we lose the race against the human race. So
can I write that down?
You can write it down. I don't need to own it.
I think that's part of my clothing.
That's one of those things of independent media. We come up with stuff on the fly.
Hey, they said some of the best hits in Motown came up off the fly. I feel like we just came up with something.
Driving down the street in a 67 Chevy or Ford or whatever. State Senator, I should say, Willie Preston, thank you for being with us this morning. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to come and hang out with us. I wish everybody luck in the election because we do have a great bench. We have a great team of people that are committed, different motivations, but committed to improving the lives of all of us. So thank you. How can folks find you and support you in these last few days if that's what they choose to do?
Well, I ask folks to go to my website, which is electpreston.com. Again, that's electpreston.com. I'm on social media under Willie Preston or Senator Preston, Preston for Congress. So again, electpreston.com, Preston for Congress, or my personal social media, which is Willie Preston. I will close with this. This has been a very tough election cycle. I want to thank the media that has been responsible in covering all of the races fairly and accurately. And I will say that I'm a bit disappointed in so much of the media's lack of coverage over the 2nd Congressional District. Again, we're the second poorest district in the state of Illinois, and I believe we've been treated that way, and that's unfortunate. But again, that's why Citizens United and all of this conglomeration of money is so important to me, and making sure that media stays independent, because that is a cornerstone of the American democracy, and I'm going to fight like hell to preserve it.
Absolutely. State Senator from Illinois, Willie Preston, who is running for Congress in the Illinois 2nd Congressional District. Thank you for being with us this morning. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM. I'm Richard Chu, and when we come back, we'll be talking with another of our strong people running for Congress. Cat Ubazalei will be with us momentarily. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
I worked all day updating my office on what's going on with ICE agents. These are animals. There's video of them tasing a man who was already zip tied in a vehicle, and they tased him because what? They didn't like the way he was behaving, or he was already zip tied. Not to mention a 1-year-old who was exposed to tear gas as her parents were running errands, as they were also, by the way, chasing down an 11-year-old girl. I'm not going to say I'm sorry for calling them animals who won't even share their badge numbers, their names, or their faces with us. Spare me the, for their protection, as though there aren't judges, police officers, FBI, all the different areas of law enforcement and our justice system who do put themselves on the line. We've had judges whose families have been killed in their homes. So you're telling me that an ICE agent is feeling a little bit, are they feeling vulnerable?
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Hi, I'm Pat Hines, candidate for Cook County Assessor. Cook County families deserve stability, not confusion and surprises. After 8 years of promised reform, taxpayers are still facing late bills, sudden tax spikes, and ongoing uncertainty. The Chicago Tribune uncovered hundreds of millions of dollars in property missing from the tax rolls, shifting the burden onto you. When assessments are wrong, families pay more than their fair share. It's time for accuracy. It's time for accountability.
Paid for by Hines for Assessor.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Michael Caro. A high wind watch goes into effect early on Friday morning. First for today, we'll have mostly sunny skies with high temperatures in the upper 40s. Then for tonight, rain showers developing, a low of 36. South winds increasing to 20 to 30. For your Friday, very windy, partly sunny, a high of 46. West winds 25 to 35 miles per hour. And that's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 30 degrees.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
He's not here to yell. He's here to inform and maybe stir the pot. This is Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I guess I could say sometimes I do yell, but I don't yell just to yell, and I don't curse just to curse. I don't curse on the air, but that's because, there's a little bit of fighter in me when it comes to things, and I want to make sure that, like State Senator Willie Preston just said, that voices are heard, and sometimes you gotta yell to get that done, and you gotta stir the pot. And I would say that this candidate that we have on next has definitely she's got 2 spoons to stir the pot. And one of the great phrases that she's made recently is, "I'm done waiting for change." Who am I talking about? Candidate for Congress in Illinois' 9th Congressional District, Cat Ubazalei. Good morning, Cat, and welcome back to Chew's Views.
Thanks so much for having me back. We got 5 days to Election Day.
Yeah, I know. I was just speaking, as you may have heard, with Melissa Bean, who's running in a neighboring district for Congress, and Willie Preston, who's running, State Senator Willie Preston, who's running for the 2nd Congressional District. Illinois is a place to be. We got a lot going on. We've had some significant leaders who've done a great job. And we give them their flowers. Don't have to agree with everything they've done. May have wanted them to do more and do it differently. However, we've got a great team of people like yourself who are running, and the late John Lewis would be proud of you, because you got into some good trouble last summer and fall, and that brought you some national attention, and many people that may or may not know, to the point where you were indicted. But you made it through, and that's what fighters do. So talk a little bit about that lesson, because it was certainly a lesson and it was an awareness. But what did that help you? How has that helped you in your continuing fight in this election?
I always tell people, don't listen to what I say, watch what I do, because I really strongly believe that actions speak louder than words, as many people do. And over the summer, over the fall, those who don't know, I was very active in protests at the Broadview ICE facility. It was no protest experience I've ever had before, of just a complete lack of caring, not just for the law, but for humanity. We're protesting outside of a concentration camp. ICE is beating the crap out of us. I was thrown to the ground maybe 3-4 times. We've been pepperballed. We've been hit with batons, and it still doesn't hold a candle to what people in that facility are going through. But also, I think the biggest lesson I learned is it took weeks for any elected officials to be out there, despite reports coming in from that place that sound like absolute hell. I had a federal indictment delivered later on that a few months, September, October, I guess. Time isn't real anymore. But it also wasn't a surprise because these are the people I used to cover as a researcher and journalist, and they know that I'm an effective critic of this administration. But what I've learned is that I am pushing to be an actual fighter. I think so many Democrats have finally understood that that's what people want to hear. But what are you going to actually do to protect your community? And it doesn't matter how many times they knock me down. To protect my community, I'll get back up and fight every single time.
Many people can tie right into what you just said about the body politic, the voters. Excuse me. They want to see the action. They want to see people that are actually fighting, and they want to know that people are going to be willing to put it on the line or certainly close to the line in that fight. And you know, I think back to my youth, but I think back to the youth of men and women who were my mentors that, you know, we just have celebrated some recent involvements in protesting. And, you know, the Edmund Pettus Bridge, Bloody Sunday, is one of the things that comes immediately to mind. I have a dear friend, a mentor of mine, and I said this the other day, that has a small plate in his head from being hit by a baton. And so people recognize when folks are willing to fight and put it all on the line, and all on the line means, you know, not just their livelihood, but it could ultimately mean their life. But you do it for someone, you do it for the message that it sends, but it also is to, I think the fight lets people know, I don't know this for a fact, but I would believe that there are people who are in those detention centers that heard about people like you who were outside fighting for them, that it probably gave them another day of fresh air, a breath of air, and will to continue to move on. So
we tried to be so loud so they could hear us inside.
Yeah.
And hopefully they did.
Well, that's the other part of the fight, is that people that need the support can see that it's happening. And that's the overlay I want to make with regard to where we are in the country right now. You are doing well in this campaign, Kat, and there's no question about it. Part of the reason is that you've been one of the louder voices when it comes to a big point right now, and that's campaign finance. And that's where the money's coming from. I was talking with Melissa Bean a little bit about it. I was certainly talking with State Senator Willie Preston a moment ago about it. Let's get into it. Let's talk about where you are when it comes to campaign finance reform, and where you are when it comes to the money that is just parachuting into Illinois' races on all levels.
Yeah, so AIPAC is now dropping $1 million against me as of yesterday. They came up with their second attack ad 2 days ago, and they are panicking because they realize that we're going to win. But they've been doing this all across Illinois, and it's been disgusting to see just how easy it is for special interest groups to light money on fire to defeat progressives and try to protect an agenda that kills others abroad. I support campaign finance reform as a basis to essentially get corruption out of politics. We need publicly funded elections. We need to ensure that working class people can run for office. And we need to ensure that there's a binding code of ethics for members of Congress, so that way they aren't staying in there for decades just to use their position to enrich themselves.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with the quote-unquote career politician as long as he or she is getting stuff done, because there's career business people, there's career social workers, there's career teachers and educators.
Absolutely.
So I think we have to change the language of, you know, career politicians, because I believe it sends the wrong message. There are career politicians who that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to be in politics, and they went to school for it, and they studied, and they did all those things, just like someone that is a career attorney or a career social worker and all the rest. So I think what we have to do is change the conversation and make it be about, if people are going to go and represent us on any level, on the local, state, or federal level, they have to do it for the right reasons and make sure, to like what Senator Preston said, that they're representing the people that got them to that office and that they're delivering. So I'm going to take that point that we both have made and then layer it into a question that I've asked the two previous guests today. You win this seat, Cat. You're now in Washington. You know that you're going to catch a lot of hell, and that's good. I know you're prepared for it, and you're going to bring a lot of hell, which is also really good and going to be fun to watch. But I have to ask you this question. How do we break this cycle of every 2 years, since we're talking about career politicians and all the rest? How do we break this cycle? 2 years, now you're going to, you get sworn in next January, and you're going to be like anybody that's got their eyes open, caught up in, okay, the next cycle is less than 2 years away. But what do we have to do to make sure that people that are getting it done get reelected and they keep getting it done? As Democrats, what do we have to do, in your opinion?
In my opinion, currently, over the next 2 years, I think the most important thing is stalling this president's dangerous agenda and working towards preparing this Democratic Party for a full progressive takeover, a new deal, going all in, no more incrementalism. I think meeting people's material needs is the best way to ensure that not only are you doing your job, but you're also getting reelected. But I also think we have to, because the House term is so short, and I wouldn't oppose to it being 4 years instead of 2, so that way people aren't constantly campaigning.
I agree.
We need to stop being worried about reelection so much, because constituents' lives are more important than your reelection. And that's for people with good intentions too. That counts as, for me, when I'm elected in 1 week, 5 days, for the nominee. But we have this idea that, kind of like the idea of call time, where you're calling rich people to ask for donations. Our leaders spend 40 hours a week sometimes, especially in the off season, doing this. And instead, we should have a system that makes it easier to run for office and makes it so that way when you're in office, the burden isn't on winning again, it's on doing your job. And that will make it or break it for you. Like, that's what I'm going to try. A lot of my campaign has been experimental. And in Congress, I want to try doing my job and seeing if that gets me reelected and focusing solely on that. And frankly, no hate on the many of good people in politics that have been focusing on getting reelected. But this is not, I am here to get some fascists out, because that's what I covered as a researcher and journalist. That's what I know how to do. I am not a career politician type, for better or for worse. I don't plan to be in there for 30 years. I've sworn not to serve more than 10 terms or 5 terms. But we need to actively make it easier to run for office and make it easier for our elected officials to do their job.
Yeah, I agree with that. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and we're talking with candidate for Congress in Illinois' 9th Congressional District, Cat Ubazalei. And I got to ask you this question, Cat. The numbers right now, you are looking strong. You and Daniel Biss are the leaders, almost the front runners in this election. And I was looking at some polling and some data, and I kind of take that not so much with a grain of salt, but who puts together the poll, who's in the poll, who gets the poll, and what's the meaning of it. It's kind of been my litmus test. But one of the things that I was looking at as it relates to percentages is that there's about 17, 18% of people that have responded in most polls for this race that are not sure in terms of who they're going to vote for. So let's take that 17% and lay it over where you are. Who are you reaching out to now? Who are you trying to get to talk to help them understand why you're the candidate that they should vote for? Who are you reaching out to?
That's what's been so special about this campaign. It's for everyone, and we're reaching out to everyone. We have an army of volunteers that is larger than any other campaigns in this race, likely larger than the entire field combined, even though there are 16 candidates. So like you said, this is a two-way race at this point. We're within the margin of error of winning. But we reach out to likely primary voters, which are usually older, more affluent people, but a lot of our base are young people, poor people, families of undocumented people. We operate a mutual aid hub out of our office to ensure that anyone, whether they're unhoused, whether they're a family that's struggling, or whether they're just someone on the street that needed a toothbrush that day, are able to get their basic necessities and thrive, not just survive, because God knows our government isn't doing it. And right now we have dozens of canvas shifts that are going to be happening over the next 5 days. And if you're interested in joining, you can join at catforillinois.com/events. We've got door knocking shifts. We've got phone banking shifts, which you can do from anywhere in the world. But yeah, we're reaching out to everyone. And that's what's got my opponents so scared, is they know that our base is so much wider and diverse across age, income, race, gender, than a lot of others.
Yeah, and I think that so the reason I asked you that question is that, we always have undecided voters in different elections on a state level or on a federal level. And in this case, there's a pretty significant pool of people that are not sure of what, and who they're going to support. So I think your approach is a smart one. It's still all about everybody that's in the district rather than just a certain segmented group of people. And that, I think that's going to carry whoever forward that can capture that the best. The war in Iran right now, and that's what we're going to call it. That's what I've been calling it, is a war in Iran, is just gobbling up like a super vacuum, resources that should be going to candidates. I'm sorry, not candidates, to everyday folks in America. And you get let's just play this out. You get elected, you win next week, and now you're the nominee. What happens? How are you going to approach this as it relates? Because it's going to then be part of your need to talk about how do we stop this war? What's going to be your position if you are the one that comes out ahead next Tuesday?
My position is clearly we need to stop this war. Of the two leading candidates, as one of the two, I am the only one that is willing to hold every single part of not just our government, but also the governments that we've supported in the past accountable, and that includes Israel. We have been brought into this war, or have created this war with Netanyahu. It's not just unconstitutional, but it's morally evil. We need to ensure that we are actually passing that war powers resolution that 4 Democrats voted against. And I think this is what I do differently also from my opponents, is this might sound harsh, but we need to start holding our party accountable. The Democrats who voted against that war powers resolution, it was 4 of them. If they had voted for it, it would have passed. They should be excommunicated from the party unless they change their view. And I feel like, especially in our party, there's this idea that, you win some, you lose some. And instead what happens is we just keep losing, and we see compromise as getting our hand cut off, but being grateful they left us our pinky. Yeah. So we need to hold our own members accountable. It's the most democratic thing you can do as a party and as a country.
So fast forward, you're in Congress, and we've got these major issues that we got to deal with. And I've said this, or I've asked this question of anyone that I've talked to that's running on a state or federal level or on any level. You're there now, and you are the person that was elected by the people that you said you were going to go and represent. You aren't going to have any time to warm up to it. You just aren't. You got to come in, get the ground running at top speed. What's that going to look like for you? What are you going to show up and be ready to do when you get there?
Like I said, anything to protect my community. My highest priorities are stalling and getting rid of this administration and their evil white Christian nationalist agenda. But to give a more serious, or not more serious, but a more dependable answer, because we don't know what's going to happen, because everything does change by the second right now. And while I cover fascists for a living and I win against fascists for a living as a researcher and journalist, just that this man is so unpredictable. We need to update our constituent services. And that is something we can do under any president. I want to be the first office in the country, starting on day one, we will begin working on this, to have a chat feature to ensure that it's more accessible, not just for people who don't want to leave an email or voicemail into the void, but also people that where English isn't their first language, where they can use translate features easier, especially as Trump harms more and more people. I also want to do a public service campaign for constituent services so that way folks know they exist, and work more closely with non-governmental entities on the ground, mutual aid and direct action organizations, so that way people can get the help they need right now. It's not a super sexy answer of like day one, what are you doing? But I think it's really important for actually serving the people of any district that we are focusing on constituent services more than ever right now.
So let's layer that against the other part of constituent services is that's just voices being heard. Money in politics. I've said this to Melissa, said this to State Senator Preston, and I'm going to say it to you. Money in politics is clearly a concern. You know it. You face it every day in your campaign. And it's also a tool that's indirectly used as a form of voter suppression, because people will say, well, my vote doesn't count. So as part of this campaign, as part of constituent services, when you first get there, what's going to be your message for people who feel like their vote's not heard? And not even just then, but between now and then, how are you going to articulate that your vote counts, your vote matters, and continue to do that?
I mean, I think that this is such a Democratic district, and it's been gerrymandered to hell like many districts in Illinois. I want to make sure that everyone feels represented. And while we do have more civic participation here than in some other districts, I want to make it clear that if you voted for one of my opponents, that you are still being represented and that your vote counts because you participated in the first place. But the way that we actually make people want to vote and like their vote actually matters is we have ranked choice voting, is we make it easier for people to vote, is we make this a federal holiday. This is ridiculous how difficult. In America, we almost fetishize misery. We teach you that struggling is a virtue. And it doesn't have to be this way. We deserve good things and we don't have to settle. And I think part of the reason that so many people sit out during elections is they're voting for the lesser of two evils. It just doesn't have to be that way.
Cat, you said something that I try to say. I say it in my way, which is I'll say this in the positive light rather than from the negative side of something. And it could be any topic that I'm talking about. But yeah, I think that's if I were to give you a grade for something, it is to make sure that more and more people, that we recognize that they don't have to settle, that they don't have to live their lives in any capacity, whether it be political, socially, economically, faith, health, from a perspective of settling. That's a very powerful thing to say to people. And I think as someone that would be representing a large number of constituents, I think it's what is your 700,000 plus people that are part of the district. I think that number is close. We want to be able to have people that say those kinds of things and say them proudly. So I commend you for taking that position.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cat, it's always great to talk to you. It's great to follow you. You are the sledgehammer that is needed in so many conversations. And I mean that in all the positive ways possible. How can folks at these last 4 or 5 days follow you, support you, and if that's what they choose to do at this point in the election?
If you are able to contribute, donating before tomorrow is actually the best time to do it, especially when it comes to AIPAC trying to drown us out on the airwaves. Friday is essentially the last day that we can place broadcast ads before the election. And while that sounds like it doesn't matter, about the same amount of people hear about us through our ads as they do through organic headlines and organic coverage. So please donate at catforillinois.com. That's cat with a K. And if you can't donate, or even if you can volunteer at catforillinois.com/events. We have phone banking 3 times a day, and you can do that from anywhere in the world. And we have so many door knocking shifts all across the 9th District. So please join us at catforillinois.com/events.
Cat Ubazalei, thank you for hanging out with us this morning. I wish everybody success in the race because we know it's not easy, but you've been doing
Thank you so much.
Great work in this fight. We'll talk to you soon. Stay safe, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cat. All right, guys, we made it once again with the help of Henry, and today we have Maddie B back there running things. Mike had to take a little bit of a break. As always, guys, as we say, stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. Take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.